Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hoping everyone's doing fantastic out there, getting it done both in and out of the gym. All right, it's been a little bit longer than I anticipated to put one of these out, and really only because I've been a little bit busier, traveling with shows over the last couple of weeks. Now in preparation for the last show that I promote for this year, which is the Franco Classic, coming up really fast in 2 weeks. If you're in the area, I highly suggest to watch it. It's in Doylestown, Pennsylvania at Del Valle College, and if you're looking for greater details, all you have to do is go on the OCB website, and always a good time watching competitors do their thing on stage. All right, so leading off, apologize for the raspy voice. Still have allergies, I believe. It's crazy. Date of recording is October 18th here, and still waking up congested. I know I'm not sick, but anyway, let's bring on that first frost to kill everything out there that's making us sneeze. So today's topic, pretty easy, fun one to talk about, and still gets quite lost for beginners to advanced people out there. And I really believe it's because we're always searching for more. And, we're always searching for the perfect diet, always searching for the perfect workout, whatever the case may be, instead of trusting our own instincts and just sticking with the basics. Mind you, weight training's been around for a long time, and people have been getting those gains on for a long time, just sticking to the basics. And listening to me over the years, if you are a follower or just jumping on for the first time, I am a big believer in the basics, keeping it simple, stupid, because ultimately the patience, the progress, putting the work in is what's really going to make it the big difference in gaining those muscles that we're all coveted and after. So, as you see in the title, top 5 mistakes people are still making in the gym and how they are sabotaging their gains. No particular order, but I think they are all equally important. So let's get started. The first one is people changing their exercises too often. So why is this a problem? Well, quite simply, if you change your exercise every other week, or if you're getting bored every other week and changing them, or because you see someone talking that you need to do this exercise, and this is actually my bonus one I'll get into, stop. You only get better by doing repetitions. And I'm not talking about the actual repetition of a bicep curl or a leg press, but the reps of execution. Once you learn the mind-muscle connection in the form, you're going to get better. And after repeating it time in, time out, you're going to then learn if the exercise benefits you, and then you can focus on strength gains. It's that simple, guys. It's not rocket science, because you'll see on social media or read this or read that influencer, and you're like, oh, I'm second guessing. And unfortunately, I still have clients that do this. And I tease them now. I'll be like, listen, you got to stop changing the routine. You got to stop asking me if this workout is okay or that workout is okay. They're all okay, but you got to give it some time, because how else are you going to figure out, if it's working for you, first of all. And second of all, you're not going to be able to monitor your strength gains. It's almost like you're in middle school and you're told that you got to practice an instrument. You got to pick one instrument. But then every week you're changing it because you either get bored or you think the other one is cooler, and then you just jump ship. You're never going to get better because you're lacking the progress. First week playing piano, then drums, then violin. You're not going to master them all. You got to dedicate your time sticking and doing one instrument, i.e. one workout. So to me, stop changing, stick with it. Stop buying into, shocking your muscles and all that bullshit. A curl is a curl. A leg curl is a leg curl. Side lateral is a side lateral. Yes, there's many and cooler scientific versions out there that you can do for stretch and all that, and you can certainly incorporate that, but stop thinking you need to be changing so often. So that's number one, and that's still near and dear to my heart because I follow that. I promote that to my clients. Now I'm hoping that, if you guys have been questioning yourselves in the gym, and I'm just reconfirming that, stick with it. That's what's going to give you the most progress. Number two, and this is going to be contradicting my old self, where, well back in the beginning, I thought that everyone had to master the big three exercises. That's squat, deadlift, and bench press, right? And it still makes sense if you can master them, only because you get more bang for the buck, because it's multi-jointed exercises, so you're working a lot of muscle groups. It's just one exercise. Bench press, chest, shoulders, tries, squat, quads, hams, glutes, deadlifts, posterior chain, a little bit of quads, depending on the variation. And they still all are great exercises. And I would tell someone never not to do them. But here's the big caveat. You don't have to. If you're not comfortable doing them, if you haven't mastered the form in doing them, or if you have injuries that prohibit from you doing them properly, because technique is super important for all three exercises. So therefore, you don't have to do them. It's that simple. Now, I love squatting and deadlifting. I have YouTube videos from, almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago, me doing big lifts, 400-pound deadlifts for reps, squats, and all that good stuff. Well, I can't do them anymore because my hips are all messed up. So I've learned to change exercises, which is okay. I'm not married to them anymore. I don't bench press as much as I used to. I'll stick to dumbbells because I get greater range of motion. But it's okay, and you connect to them, and you don't have any issues, and your form is all right. But don't feel obligated that you have to do them. Because you could be a great bodybuilder, a great physique athlete, learning how not to do them or avoiding them because you just have to, and it's acceptable. Now, when I work with someone in the beginning, I like them to try to master all three. I want to see how their body handles it because you get a lot of benefit because of the multi-jointed, a lot of muscle groups being used, and it's great for the body overall. And it's always cool getting stronger on those exercises for beginners. But then if I see someone having trouble, because, when I work with someone, every couple of weeks I'll remind them to send me videos of those big exercises so I can, monitor their form and give them proper feedback, which is part of my coaching. And if I see them messing it up, and no matter what they do or correction, or even if it's with the lighter of weight, if their line of path is not so great with squats or deadlifts, and if they start complaining about a nagging injury, then exit. We're done. Move on. We'll find a different machine to, accommodate your needs to still hit those same muscle groups. So don't feel married to the big three. Now, but, like I said before, I would say you had to do them. Now, I've matured. Coaching maturity and all that stuff. And here's another coaching maturity, but a little bit of science involved. Training to failure. This is number 3. A lot of people believe they need to go balls out and train to failure on just about all the sets. That's not true. And this has been proven in science, and this is specifically proven looking at power lifters. Now you're saying, Joe, power lifters are just, going for strength at one rep. Yes, that is the case. But if you look at someone who's been powerlifting for a while, and I hate to say it, and they're not fat, they gained a lot of muscle doing those exercises. And more so doing the way of repetitions of sub-max levels. And that's the point that I want to get to. So yeah, you can train to failure. I believe getting close to failure, 2 or 3 reps is ideal. So you can still help with recovery. But I've also done podcasts on the topic about weights and reps and working at sub-max levels. And now I'm going to break it down to you, because what's more important to me is recovery, is getting back in the gym, is not hurting yourself. So sometimes when you work at submaximal levels and still focus on progressive overload, that's the big key, progressive overload of doing more. That is what's going to stimulate muscle growth, not just trying to annihilate all the time. Yeah, it's fun. I still do it. But tracking your workouts and working at submax levels sometimes leads to going to failure. Here's an easy example. If you guys are not sure what I'm talking about, let's just say that you are doing a leg press, 100 pounds. You do your 2 or 3 warm-up sets, and you build up to 100 pounds for your working sets. You're doing 3 sets of 10, but you felt like you could have done more, okay? You're like, yeah, I left a couple in reserve where I probably could have done 2 or 3 more reps. Even if you stop at 3 sets of 10 with 100 pounds, that's fine. The next time you do the leg press, you add 10 pounds. Again, submax levels, 3 sets of 10. So you did more volume when you multiply sets times reps times weight compared to 3 sets of 10 of 100. Now you did 110. And you simply add weight, micro load. Even though you're not going to failure, you're doing more volume with each passing workout. That's what powerlifters do. They rarely train to failure. You know, if their goal is to bench press 300 pounds, they're not bench pressing 300 pounds during their 12-week period leading up to a meet. They're working at 90%, 80%, 70%, whatever percent of the goal max that they're going for. And they're preparing their body for it. But they are still getting stronger. And if you can get stronger, you're going to gain more muscle. So learning how to train at submax levels, getting close to failure, to me, is the key to progress. And that's why you got to track your workouts. Now, as I talked about before in a number of podcasts, form is key. You know, one of the mistakes that people make is that they lose their form as time goes on. And I may have done a whole podcast about this subject where they fall in love with just getting stronger, right? You go to the gym, you can curl 20 pounds. Well, the next time you go to the gym, you're curling 15 and then 20, which is cool, which is you want to do what I talked about. But then, ever so often, and I've seen this with my own clients who start out and they get excited, they fall in love with just adding weight. But unfortunately, their form then is being sacrificed, where they just want to video themselves for the gram and they just add weight, and they'll lift the weight no matter how they can just to have more weight. Meaning, you know, if you do a bicep curl, elbows tight at your side, lift the weight 3/4, down slow, full stretch. And then they add 5 pounds. Well, I got to bring my elbows up a little bit more. And then they add another 5 pounds because they want to do 20 pounds the next workout. Well, a little bit of body English. They're leaning back at their waist and throwing their hip up just so they can curl the weight. So you see where I'm getting? This is a big mistake. I see it more so in beginners, which is great that they want to lift more weight, but you always got to reset and keep your form and allow the muscle to gain strength, not using the body and the mind thinking, I got to lift the weight no matter what. And this is a common mistake that I see people do where they fall in love with strength gains, which is ultimately what I want you to do as a coach, but you got to correct the form. You can't have that. You can't lose the mind-muscle connection and basically just, you know, have more momentum to lift the weight. That is a common thing that I see. Number 5, and again, because I'm matured, but still in the beginning of my coaching and my own lifting career, I always started off with major exercises like the squat, the bench press, and all that multi-jointed exercises. You don't have to. You know, as you get older, or if you need to, you're working around injuries, or you're specifically trying to target and exhaust a muscle group, it's okay to start off with an isolation exercise. I've been doing this for years and I love it. You know, I specifically for my legs, before I do a quad dominant lower body routine, I start off with leg extensions, warming up the quads, the knees, all that stuff, get a good pump. So when I do my hack squat, 1, I don't need as much weight. 2, I'm really warmed up and I don't have to waste my time doing warm-ups and I can thrash them right away. Same thing if I do a posterior chain dominant lower body workout, I'll do leg curls, warm up the hamstrings, do my major lift, and then I'm into other hamstring posterior chain exercises like RDLs or whatnot, and I'm warmed up. So how that can also be applied to the smaller muscle groups. If you're doing 2 bicep exercises, start off with a 1-arm cable curl before you do a barbell curl. There's a lot of benefits. Your body doesn't know, but it's an ego thing. I think that's the big problem. And that was my problem when I first started training, and also how I prescribe workouts, where if I'm leading off with a squat, I would never do a leg extension or a leg curl because my goal is to lift more weight, more weight, more weight. But a good tactic, and if you want to mix things up because you may have an injury or you just want to try to exhaust the muscles in a different way, pre-exhaust. Try something a little bit different. Before you do your pressing exercise for your chest, do a chest fly. Get the blood flow in there. Do a 1-arm dumbbell row. Isolate that exercise before you do pull-ups or a bent over row. It's something worth trying to do, and more of my programs are incorporating them. 1, for safety, 2, just change your pace, but stick it out though. I'm not telling you to mix it up. When you dedicate to something new like this, give it a shot. And I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me that it's a great way to stimulate new growth. And also for the reasoning of warming up properly, and it's a little bit safer because you don't got to go balls out on that secondary major exercise. So those are my top 5. Quick review. Don't change your exercises that often. You want repetitions to get better at them. You don't have to stick to the big 3, and I covered that pretty in depth. Obviously, if you enjoy doing them, do them. But to become a great physique athlete, no matter what division, you don't have to do them. There are plenty of other machines out there, guys. That's what's pretty incredible now, especially with lower body. I go to the gym, I'm like, holy shit, what are half of these machines? That's cool. Try different exercises if you can't connect to the big 3. Training to failure, not necessary. Close to failure. Sub-max levels, but the big focus is progressive overload, adding weight, tracking your workouts, keeping your form. That is key. Don't fall in love with strength gains in which it will be counterproductive and you're going to lose your form. And the last one, you don't have to lead off with major type exercises to be effective in the gym. Although I do have a bonus one. Okay, when it comes to myths and what you should be doing in the gym, and you guessed it, stop listening to so many other people. Now, if you have a coach, I'm hoping they follow what I prescribe. If not, question them or reach out to me if you want to learn more, if you're interested. But seriously, try not to listen to everyone out there on the internet. Social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Threads. Find a program that works best for you. Give it time. Trust yourself. Because that's how you're going to make the most gains, not following what XYZ competitor just did in the big pro show, or someone that looks good in bathroom photos or anything like that. Trust your own path, your own process of following a program, and give it a chance, because that's how you're going to make gains, and that's how you're going to figure out what works best for you instead of changing it up. There's too much free information out there. I like all this is free, and I'm hoping all my anecdotal experience has been good for you guys. I appreciate you and love you, but you got to give yourself time following a program and not to listen to everyone. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks again, guys, for the support. If you're interested in my coaching and you dig my philosophies, hit me up, fitfranco@verizon.net. I'll talk to you next time.